Oh shoot, I didn't do the intro. Shit. That's all right. We'll skip we can do it. Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. Let's see if I can get this to work in time. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us this week. We have Leo Bridgewater this week joining us. He's going to talk to us about a couple of different things going on, as well as actually a whole bunch of different topics. We originally kind of had one thing in mind and came up with a whole bunch more right before the podcast. So it's going to be pretty cool to jam out. We're actually from not too far away from each other. Where he currently is we're not too far from where I grew up. So it'll be a lot of fun today. So welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. We talk about aquaponic, sustainable soil, and regenerative cannabis topics each week, as well as extraction and occasionally cannabis culture as well. And then now and then some aquaponics is on top of that. So thanks a lot for joining us. We're first off, I just wanted to mention I guess the initial thing that brought us up for the show this week. Oh, actually, before we get to that, big shout out to Jesse from Jelly Bomb. I want to make sure I get this right. Screwed up the links here before the show, so I don't have it in front of me. But if you check out the description, we do have a new store that you can buy merch available if you're looking for more merch. We have, for the first time, t-shirts and hoodies and stuff available. If you guys are looking to buy anything like that, it helps support the show, it helps pay for the website and for hosting and all the different things. We haven't actually had any kind of way for people to support the show directly. So we figured rather than just asking you guys for donations, we'd try to do something a little bit cooler. So I know she has some other cool clothing stuff that's in the works, but for right now we have the t-shirts and the hoodies. I know we have some socks and some scarves and some hats and some other cool stuff coming down the line as well. But for now we just have the t-shirts. So check that out if it's something you're interested in. And then yeah, so thanks a lot for watching. And so this week we're going to talk a little bit about there's a federal cannabis lawsuit, Washington versus William Barr. Which is basically a big lawsuit about whether or not the government can continue to maintain Schedule 1 for cannabis. If this, it's going to be heard tomorrow, October 9th, by the Supreme Court. If they choose to take the case on and they decide against the government, it would, potentially immediately deschedule cannabis, both recreational and medical. And it's on the basis that there's absolutely no way that they can continue to argue that it is Schedule 1 when 38 states and jurisdictions across the United States actually allow it. So you also have 94% of the country thinks it should be at least decriminalized. So, they have absolutely no argument. So it's going to be held tomorrow. So it'll be really interesting to see that. It's Marvin Washington versus William Barr. So really exciting, and we thought we'd get a really awesome guest on the show. Thanks to my friend Liz Blaze for helping facilitate tonight's show. So thanks a lot for joining us, Leo. That's how we came to you. Leo is a cannabis reporter. He was formerly an Army specialist who served multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He was also one of the Army's highest ranked officers in communications during that time, which is super awesome. He also speaks a lot about veterans for PTSD. He experienced PTSD coming back from combat, and he's done a lot of work for veterans, especially in that space. So thanks a lot for helping our veterans and help kind of undo the screwed up stuff our government has done to you guys, and kind of always great way to kind of help fight that directly and find people that are doing that. So thanks a lot for coming on the show, and thanks for talking to us about this, and especially on the day right before it's going to be heard. We thought it'd be great to hear from someone like yourself. So thanks a lot.
Wow, thanks for having me, and I really appreciate being here and having the opportunity to speak on the myriad of new subjects we found to talk about tonight. But just want to reintroduce myself. My name is hi everybody. My name is Leo Bridgewater. I am the National Director of Veterans Outreach with Minorities for Medical Marijuana. I also am the Chief Innovation Officer for CWCB Education, and I am a cannabis advocate and entrepreneur. I testified in Senate committee to have post-traumatic stress disorder added as a qualifying condition to the New Jersey medical marijuana program, and in 2016, then Governor Chris Christie signed our bill into law. And then subsequent from that, I'm also I've given testimony in one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit that Steve just referred to, challenging the constitutionality of cannabis being a Schedule One drug. And as was said before, we're going to find out tomorrow if the Supreme Court is actually going to take on the case. And so we're excited. One of the things that was a little bit of an update. It's a very rare thing for a case to have an amicus brief attached to it. It's a rare thing to get one. In our case, we have 17. And so, yeah, 17. And seven of them were written by members of Congress. The most recent one represented Blumenauer from out in, I think, Oregon. And so, you know, there's a lot of momentum with this. It's, at this time, when you think about it, the entire country now qualifies for a medical marijuana card just off of anxiety. you know, PTSD, post traumatic stress corona, keep call it whatever you want, And so the time for oxymoronic politics is over. If we as a country are going to ever fully recover from this, it's going to require everybody. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, let me take that back. It's going to require a body. Because we can't have people in jail for a plant no more. Like that, like it's not even cool no more. Like, come on, And so, in the state of New Jersey, we are voting for adult use cannabis. It's on the ballot here for November 3rd. So those that are in this area, New Jersey, please make sure if you're going to vote in by mail, turn your voter card around. It's on the back. It's question number one. Please vote yes. And everyone else. And also, the last day to register to vote is October 13th. So make sure you get out and make sure you register to vote. And let's make this. This is there's some really historical things that are happening in the next you know these next few months. On top of the fact that all this happening in the midst of a pandemic. So, boy, oh boy, oh boy.
I think that the pandemic, though, is going to end up being kind of a weird Trojan horse to full legalization, because you're going to see a lot of states that, frankly, run out of revenue. What other pools of tax income aside from liquor and cannabis do these states have, when because they don't have movie theaters, they don't have casinos, they don't have big events, they don't have hotels, they don't have conventions, they don't have a lot of those other pools of cash, and a lot of other just commerce has slowed down at the retail level, that's also been taxed traditionally in order to fill those tax coffers, and cannabis really gives them a way to kind of fill some of those coffers in a way that doesn't upset people, at least en masse. So
Well,
I
what's
think it's
interesting, and
causing a
you
lot of.
and you're on a good you're definitely on a good path. I mean, what's interesting is that a few weeks ago, the governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, we had a budget, and he let us know, real talk, we like 4 billion light in the ass on the budget. And when you talk about cannabis legalization, particularly in the state of New Jersey, if New Jersey does this correctly, we leapfrog everyone and go straight to number two behind California, because we're sandwiched between the number four media market in the country, which is Philadelphia, and the number one cannabis consuming city in the world, which is New York City. We have a population of 9 million people, and we get 110 million visitors a year. So, and mind you, New York State doesn't allow for flower, and they're medical, and they just have medical. Pennsylvania only has medical. And so when you're talking about still trying to assess the collateral damage from this COVID pandemic, mind you, we're not even on the other side of it as of this time in time. You see what I'm saying? We're still in it. This is only October 8th, 2020. This ain't over yet. So we don't even have the final number of the damage. And let's take into account what has happened. Well, the GDP shrunk by 32% in a quarter, but the stock market didn't have a comparable contraction in that same kind of time frame. So these Fortune 500 companies, particularly the tech ones, have figured out how to make money without people. And just a few months ago, 50 million people applied for unemployment benefits. What percentage of those people are going to have jobs to go back to once the lights are fully on? What's the percentage? And mind you, our industry is still in its infancy. So we're one of those few industries that is still going to be in need of human hands. So what COVID-19 did was COVID literally closed the door on that first generation plant touching cannabis entrepreneur. And so now all of us, black, white, whatever, all of us, now we are charged with building the infrastructure for that first generation worker bee. That workforce. And listen, 50 million people apply for unemployment benefits. So that first generation workforce is going to be multi-generational. There's going to be people 45 and 50 whose bosses are like 23 and 26. You see what I'm saying? It's going to be that kind of thing, fresh out. This industry is so infant, we don't even have an industry standard unit of measurement yet. That's how baby we are. And so when you talk about cannabis legalization, you're not just talking about facilitating a cultural shift in how we view this plant. We're also talking about facilitating a massive, massive transfer of wealth. Logistically, it almost cannot be quantified. And so there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. There's a lot of logistical aspects that need to be talked about. There's some very, very difficult conversations that have to be had, and if there's one thing that I've learned from my time in the military is that we only know success one way. We've always known success one way: together. We've always done it together. And for this right here, if we're gonna really make it out on the other side of this and doing well, we need everybody, all hands on deck.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just looking at some more of the details here on all the different work that's going into getting this case together. But to speak to your point earlier is that I think a lot of people don't realize how many jobs are created by the cannabis industry that aren't directly people that are employed by it. When you look at all these buildings have to have electrical done and HVAC done and plumbing done and have to be inspected, and all the kitchens have to be food safety inspected, and all the sales to make that happen, and all the workers that have to go get lunch and have to go get different parts for their car because they're going back and forth, and it just creates this enormous ripple of jobs around it that are the support businesses that allow the business to even happen. The packaging guys and the guys that repair packaging machines and the guys, all things like that people don't realize that, there's so many jobs that are created, and there's very few, again, going back to what I was saying, there's few things that the politicians can do that would overnight create as many jobs as well. So between that and the fact that it's a tax revenue pool that they can kind of pick out of pretty much at will, it really creates a lot of strong political incentive, regardless of political affiliation across the board, to try and get some of the stuff finally passed. And I think that
remember, I live in New Jersey, and so New Jersey is considered the medicine cabinet of the country, and so when we're talking legalization, we're messing with three types of money here. Okay, We're messing with old money. That's the pharmaceutical industry. They've been operating in this state for generations. Then you're messing with long money. That's the alcohol industry. Okay. Cannabis does affect that too. And then the third is big money. And that would be the prison industrial complex, because they've been thriving as well. And so, nothing for nothing, like lawmakers here still use the term gateway drug. And so, you know, when you talk about cannabis legalization, it's like we're asking a bunch of Flintstones to write the rules to a Jetsons game. And what this requires of us is this requires of us now to think 5 and 10 generations down the road. And if things and things need to make the things that make sense now, if they don't make sense then, there needs to be mechanisms put in place so that those generations can make those necessary changes so that it would be reflective of the time. When you talk about, social justice and minority inclusion and equity, stake, recognize those are just American issues. And in this country, we have ways of, everyone's building out their teams. They got like a quarterback with wide receiver and an O-line and a monster to defense. And then they run out onto the field when they get that license and realize the rest of the world plays the other football. They play soccer. And this is a global game. And so if this whole situation was a television show, me and you are in season 8, episode 6. They're in season 1, episode 4. Spoiler alert, it's not a gateway drug. That's the season finale in season 1. Think along those lines. And the people, and just to be even more clear, the 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 people in Colorado, total cannabis revenue was $1 billion. Ancillary businesses made 1.5. So understand the people who actually make the most money don't necessarily touch the plant. Sort of kind of like with the California gold rush. The folks who sold the shovels and the wood and the jeans, they made more money than the people who actually touched the gold. So it's the same thing. It's the same principle here. And this industry is not defined by education yet. But it's catching up. It's catching up really fast.
So tell us a little bit more about this court case for those people that don't know, and what would be kind of the implications of it. I think you have a much better understanding of this than I do, and I don't want to go ahead and make some off statement. So I think that you'd be a much better person to ask. So tell us kind of, say let's maybe the 2 different scenarios if this passes or if it doesn't pass tomorrow.
Okay, well, tomorrow's decision is just all we're hoping for is the Supreme Court decides that they will take on the case, that they will hear the case, and that's going to be huge. If that happens, that's when it's like, all right, y'all, now it's really on deck. If the Supreme Court decides to take on this case, this will be the single greatest shot to federally legalize cannabis that we will ever come to in our lifetimes. You know what I'm saying? So far, you see what I'm saying? This is the greatest shot we have. And what we are doing is we are challenging the constitutionality of cannabis being a Schedule 1 drug. In order to be a Schedule 1 drug, that drug has to be highly addictive, offer zero medicinal value, and I forget what the third thing is. All of them don't apply to weed. And so that's just bottom line. And so it's kind of oxymoronic that cannabis is scheduled at a much higher rate than crack cocaine. You know what I'm saying? And, and the thing is that, if it has zero medicinal value, then how is it you got 33 states that got medical marijuana programs? You know, the one of the good things that happened with this pandemic is that it proved to the rest of the world that cannabis is pandemic proof. You see what I'm saying? And then and let them tell it. You know what I'm saying? Cannabis might have something to do with fighting this shit, fighting COVID. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, you know. But the thing is that, you know, at first you had some states who deemed us non-essential. Then we became essential. You see what I'm saying? Like, come on, this is you know. And so and that's what the Supreme Court is going to have to be reviewing on top of all of the science that's been there for generations as well. You know, so it doesn't make sense. And you know what we did was we had to petition the DEA to, you know, use its administrative procedures to have cannabis rescheduled, and that took years. You know, and so now, and this endeavor has been a years, and I mean years in plural, years long endeavor. You know, and it's, you know, Marvin Washington, Alexis Bortell, myself, you know, Jake Plowden, Nelson Guerrero, all of us with the Cannabis Cultural Association, we're signed on with this lawsuit as well. And so all of us, you know, Alexis Bortell is a young lady who's basically a cannabis, you know, refugee. She cannot leave the state of Colorado and go back home to Texas because she needs her cannabis and she can't travel with it, which is why she couldn't come to DC to testify against Congress, and her parents had to do it. It's, you know, and you know, and in my case, you know, having dealt with post-traumatic stress disorder and actually, you know, lost a job with Amazon because I was a medical marijuana patient. You know, these are all things that have, you know, and my other battle buddy Jose Belen, you know, these are all the things that we are bringing, all the different variables that we're all bring our contribution to this case being heard before the United States Supreme Court.
Yeah, hopefully they'll take it. So say that it goes through and they decide to take it. What are kind of the implications if they decide for it, against it? You know, say in that scenario.
So to give people I'll answer that, but let me give you a timeline perspective, okay? So tomorrow if they decide to hear the case, sorry, if they decide to hear the case tomorrow, then February they'll probably start arguments. June we'll get a decision. You know, and so if the decision, if the Supreme Court rules in our favor, then literally cannabis is legal in all its form. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's it. It's not a Schedule One drug. You know what I'm saying? So then it's going to be incumbent upon the states to enact whatever laws that they're going to have, because all we've done is just had cannabis legalized federally. You see what I'm saying? Now, the good news is that, you know, at some point, you know, that's when federal agencies will have to get involved with this, with the actual, you know, oversight of cannabis. Who would it fall under? It should fall under the Department of Agriculture, but again, we're dealing with Flintstones and Jetsons, so who knows, you know? And then states themselves will have to start enacting, you know, laws. And listen, that means like people who are in jail for just cannabis only and everything like that. Time to go. Got to get them out. You know, so as far as the federal charges go, you know, again, states have to do their own thing in terms of expungement. So it's not like, you know, people gonna be walking out of jail that day or anything like that. But we're gonna have to. And here's the thing: we're gonna have to start having things for these people who are going to be coming out of jail to do too. You know, but what we've also done is we've taken away a major tool that police officers have been able to use to enforce on a particular group of people. So, you know, like, these are all, like, when you think about the ripple effects and everything, you know, the ripple effects would be mighty, but they would be long overdue. long overdue. This never should. And just for reference, take a look at the Schaefer Commission and look at the LaGuardia report. It'll tell you just how far back that people have been petitioning the United States government on the medical efficacy of cannabis and hemp.
And so on that note, what type of social equity programs is New Jersey looking into? I know they're voting on a legalization. Is that a part of any of the bills, or is there any efforts for that in New Jersey?
Mm.
I know
They
there's a big
they
effort for it in California.
No, they like put like this. There have not been any real meaningful discussions here. A lot of it has to do with and the reasons being the variables are different, but there are two types of variables. The meaningful to why there hasn't been meaningful discussions. One barrier is lack of education and particular prejudice here. Okay, and then the second reason is lack of education and self-inflicted wounds. And so, and the reason why I have to say it that way is because there's New Jersey overall perspective, and then there's the African American community perspective. And on both fronts, there's been failures on from leadership on both fronts. And that's why I said, there's going to have to be some very, very difficult and uncomfortable conversations that need to be had. But the best part about cannabis is that it makes the strangers the bedfellows. Smoke a joint, I bet you'll come up with something.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I understand that you do a lot of local outreach. We were actually talking a little bit about that before the show on how you do a lot of work on that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of your efforts there in that direction? Because I know you
Yeah,
do quite.
sure. As National Director of Veterans Outreach with Minorities for Medical Marijuana, I sit on a number of boards. I sit on the advisory board for the CWCB Expo, which is, one of the largest cannabis and hemp trade shows in the country. We have shows in LA, Boston, and New York. And I also, and one of the things that I do is, fighting for veterans benefits. And one of the things that I'm proud of that I was able to do here is to get the Department of Labor to authorize dispensaries as for voc rehab, and voc rehab is a program with the VA. It's called vocational rehabilitation, where veterans can get a job at a designated place, and because the Department of Labor authorizes it, the VA will then allow that veteran to access their GI Bill benefits to be able to schools like Oaksterdam and Cloverleaf. They're now authorized by the VA for GI Bill, so you can use your tuition to get that GI Bill. But what also does is they also for every veteran the business owner hires, they get a payroll tax break, and it compounds per veteran. And so, and the VA also actually buys whatever equipment that veteran needs to do their job. And so there's you see how there's it actually pays in the long run to actually start hiring your veterans. And so making that happen, and then running some job fairs at Harmony Dispensary up in Secaucus, New Jersey, and working with Justice Grown here in Ewing. It's like they're really, like we're starting that infrastructure and groundwork. I'm actually doing it. It's actually, and this is not theoretical here. It's actually going on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I often suggest people hire veterans, especially for security. They have all the weapons training, they have all the background checks, they have all the stuff you need in most states for them to pass whatever certifications they need to be an armed security
Dude, they
person.
sitting on security clearances.
Exactly, with flying colors. You don't have to worry about it. And
Yup.
not only that, like they love an easy job where they deal with stoners that the worst thing they do is someone yelling because somebody screwed up a grow. Like that compared to what they've been through, that ain't shit. Like that's an easy. And not only that, they'll tell you immediately if someone's creeping on the property or someone's scouting the property. They're gonna know immediately. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're
Especially
trained to look at that type of stuff. That's just by
exactly.
virtue. But listen, there is no job in this United States that you don't have, that the military doesn't have. So we've done every job. The one thing that we've all done, is we have a work ethic. And when I travel around the country, right? Because I do speeches and stuff like that, right? And when I look at the current racial and political climate of this country, I'm learning that people tend to lean more towards the word of a veteran before a politician these days. And when you think about it, it's like, oh, okay, I know why, because they know we're gonna tell it. We're not going we're not going to BS you. We're not going to try to put some hot sauce on the story or nothing like that. Nah, we just going to tell it. And listen, for the amount of time that we've been on the phone, been talking to each other, I have literally given you a much better rate of return on your investment, taxpaying citizen, than a suicide. And we're at 22 veteran suicides a day. It's 5 a week here in New Jersey. And so, one of the things that I've also learned is that people really did think that PTSD was just a veteran only thing. And it's like, hell no. You can go from one end of Stuyvesant to the other and you got PTSD. So again, these are all things like education, all roads as far as the ills of the cannabis industry and advocacy, all roads lead back to education or lack thereof.
Absolutely, and that's really an area where I think that it does give a lot of opportunity to a lot of people that maybe are skilled growers or skilled hash makers or skilled edible makers. I know that's
Absolutely.
how I got really good on it. And growing up in Philly, we all had access to the same supply, but I got really good at making edibles allegedly. So uh, so
See?
it's just how you learn how to do it. But I'm sure there's a bunch of people that have a bunch of cool techniques and methods that they've developed that might be really interesting that people haven't developed yet, that you just don't have the ability to, or they can't tell
Mm-hmm.
nobody. I remember
Mm-hmm.
back when I lived on the East Coast, there was 3 other people on the planet that knew I even knew how to grow. Right? Like,
See? Yeah, see, and now and the thing is that, like one of the things I loved about, going to Amsterdam, because I used to go to Amsterdam like twice a year. Like I like always made sure I made it to Amsterdam for the Cannabis Cup, because that was always like the same week of Thanksgiving. And so I would just fly in that Saturday before and bounce out like that Tuesday or Wednesday during. You know what I'm saying? And I learned, like what it is because it was counterculture. It's as long as it's not counterculture, like kids over there in Europe don't really mess with weed like that. Not in Amsterdam. They just think it's something old people do. Not saying that they don't ever, but they're not. It's not a counterculture thing. And so again, that's why I said we're also facilitating a cultural shift in how we view this plant. And listen, me and you've been saying, all we've been saying is cannabis, cannabis, cannabis. We ain't even touch on hemp. And that's the long money. That's the $1 trillion, industry right there. You know how much stuff can be done with hemp? Do you know what, like I look at those wildfires out there in California, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, replace all them trees with hemp. We'll grow that shit back in 90 days. You know what I'm saying? Like you like that.
not only that, but on that same note, those houses made at Hempcrete wouldn't burn.
That's and listen, hempcrete is how we can rebuild the hood. You know what I'm saying? Even better, cheaper. You see what I'm saying? Like what is required, particularly here on the East Coast, is we just need we need a municipality to just embrace this industry in all its forms. You understand what I'm saying? And the crazy part is, I was telling this to some city council members that I'm not talking about a grant or a program. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about industry. Industry, okay? They're like a whole industry. And, like, and it's again, dealing with Flintstones. It's like, oh my goodness, like this is, and the crazy part is Trenton, New Jersey is ranked the number 18 most IT prepared city in the country. Can you dig it? Right?
Oh yeah, and not only that, like even back in the day, there was quite a few hydro stores around the Philly, New Jersey area. Like even before, and we also like I worked in the pet trade. Our
Mm-hmm.
pet store had a full, basically grow store section. We had plant nutrients we sold them for your planted aquarium, but they sure as hell weren't really for your planted aquarium. We'd also sell you 1,000-watt light kits with air ventilation and carbon filters for your reef tank.
You can. You used to have to. I remember back in the day, you used to have to go to. You had to source your equipment from different places. You couldn't buy it all at one spot because then like the thinking was the cops is watching the credit card machines, and if they see a certain combination of purchases made, you on a list.
Oh yeah, no, you buy everything in cash. You buy no more than 2 items per location. You hit like
Yep.
10 places, and you make sure you stop and go have dinner at mom's house from where you go. You go directly to mom's house for dinner before you go home, and wherever.
Yep.
To go see a movie, really make sure no one's following you.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. It's like now imagine not having a role like that. Imagine how much better of a worker you'd be. You know what I'm saying? How motivated.
Years took me years to turn all that off when I moved out west.
And that's what's coming. You see what I'm saying? And so the thing about it is that also is why education is even more important, because people are coming here with a warped sense of how things work, and we have to reel that in and say, whoa, wait, like for instance, I'll give you a perfect example of the type of people we're dealing with. Okay. Remember when I told you that New Jersey is voting for this on November 3rd, right? And I told everybody, hey, those who are in the area, turn your card around. It's question number one. Do you want to know what question number one is? This gives you an idea how people here think. Question number one is, should the state of New Jersey tax and regulate a form of marijuana called cannabis?
We had you want to hear on the same level of crazy, and it's actually in the same area. So Philadelphia wanted to ban the ownership of any venomous creatures, right? So they wanted to make it so you couldn't have like a venomous snake or a
Right,
scorpion or whatever. So what did they do? The lawyers wrote it, ban anything with a venom gland and ban beekeeping in Philadelphia. And it was like, it was clearly not the intention of it, but these guys just were too broad spectrum. And when you have lawyers instead of biologists writing legal language, same thing like Denver wanted to ban the ownership of Komodo dragons, which are already federally restricted, right? So they're already like really hard. Even in the I worked in the pet trade, even on the less the legal side of things in the pet trade, they're really hard to come by. Like in general,
right,
they're never less than $8,000 or $9,000 for a little one if they do come around.
right,
But they wanted to make them illegal, so they banned the genus Varanus, banning all monitor lizards, including the ones sold in pet stores. And it was like, it's just again another example of when you got, and the same thing happens with cannabis legislation or plant legislation or hemp legislation. This whole hang up on 0.3% THC is just ridiculous.
Oh,
So they
listen.
for it.
Well, the mistake that the mistake that lawmakers, and this is throughout the country, and you'll see it. Um, the mistake that's made is that they make a differentiation between cannabis and hemp. You know what I'm saying? There shouldn't be a differentiation. Honestly, it's all the same freaking plant. You know what I'm saying? Uh, uh, 0.03 and all that stuff. That's the abomination that you're forcing upon people. You know what I'm saying? That's the abomination that like in all honesty, CBD is an abomination of the actual plant itself because you took away an aspect because you feel some kind of way. It like the science of it all, had take got had been stripped away, and people fell for the whole propaganda aspect, making, because and listen, it was a great tool. It worked. Look at what it did to my people in this country. Look at what the prohibition on cannabis has done. You know what I'm saying? The vilification of it it's so bad that even today, the number one hardest group of people to talk to about cannabis legalization is Black church people. Most folks don't realize Black church people are way more conservative than what you would see on Fox News. And people like, and if you think about it, the Black church is considered the gatekeepers to the African American community traditionally. You know what I'm saying? And so when you think about, the illegalities of the plant, you know what I'm saying, and what it's done to the African American community, it's killed people, it's broken up homes, it's thrown a lot of us in jail, you know what I'm saying? All for what? And we now know, at one point a president, Nixon, decided that this would be a great tool to get at us. So I don't like using the term reparations when talking about cannabis legalization, because when you talk reparations and cannabis, you devalue the term reparations. Cannabis can never pay back what is owed to Black people as a whole in terms of reparations. But I do like talking about restitution, though.
Well, and this is where I think that it's a great thing for things like social equity can help make sure that
Exactly.
things are enforced, and that money is going back into the communities that have been victimized. And I think, and it's a way that we can actually do it through policy in an easy way that we can do immediately.
Well,
And
see, you're at, but see, the thing is we're falling, we're right now, history is not going to be kind to Black leadership in the cannabis space politically. And that's because they still subscribe to the gateway drug theory and whatnot. And they also subscribe to decriminalization, which is what they're pushing for. One of the things they're pushing for in lieu of a bill or anything like that. The thing about it is that there is not one example in these United States where decriminalization of cannabis has ever worked for Black people, Black and brown people. I mean, New York City has been decriminalized since the 70s, and they still lead the nation in arrests for small amounts of cannabis. What we need, what we really, and anybody who really understands that, what I'm saying, would know that's old information that we always knew. But you hear politicians say that because it's the safe word. You have to understand, in most of these states, cannabis is only that much of what they think about on a day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying? These politicians, matter of fact, you know, I learned that these politicians don't even read half the stuff that they put into these bills. It's their staffers that do it for them. You have to submit, like we've literally had to submit, bill language. If there's one thing that this whole journey has taught me, it's been the greatest civics lesson of my life. And these politicians, you know, we have one guy, his name's Senator Ron Rice. This dude was a Vietnam veteran, okay, and he voted no on PTSD. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they mix social equity and social justice as one and the same. And so until there's some social justice, there's not going to be a talk about, African American inclusion in the space from an economic industry perspective. You know, again, a lot of Flintstones. Listen to Joe Biden. You know, even though Kamala said, yeah, we're going to decriminalize marijuana and everything like that. When you listen to Joe talk about it, the first few words that fly out of his mouth is rehab. So they still think us addicts.
Well, and Kamala helped put a bunch of people, like, just so that people don't think I'm totally left or right. Kamala helped put a bunch of people in jail and then laughed about it when interviewed about why she put those people in jail. She laughed about it, which was
Exactly. So
infuriating. Like, I was so upset when they picked her because I'd love to see a woman of color be the VP or even president, but she's not a good representation of powerful women in politics. I think there's better people that could have represented her, the people better, and hey, whatever, she's not terrible, but I think especially given the fact that she was a prosecutor, it has put a lot of people from both the cannabis industry and minorities and other groups in jail, and then laughed about it on camera is just not a good example of the person you want to put forth to try and rein this stuff in.
You know what? I get it. You know what I'm saying? 10 million% get it. You know what I mean? But in comparison to,
oh yeah, no, in comparison to a dominionist who's
just like,
basically
yeah, like,
a few screws short of a terrorist bomber.
yeah, like I'm just like, listen, like, look, bro, look. Everybody has a line that even they wouldn't cross. You got one. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what your line is. I mean, you don't fight in front of old people.
I didn't say
No. Hear me out.
To stop what's going on, but at the same time, she's not who I think should be representing us either, I guess is my point.
Yeah, but the problem is we ain't got no other choice.
Oh no, but it's between that and whatever.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and considering it's like, okay, look, just to get him out of there, okay, fine, yeah. He got to go. You understand what I'm saying? And the way I see it is that, what we should have been doing, and what I've been doing the entire time Trump has been in office, is I've been doing the entrepreneurial, route in terms of building my own business, building my own brand. You know what I'm saying? We just launched Bridge H2O. It's a strain that came out this past April. It's a heavy indica, and you can get it at Harmony, Alternative Treatment Center in Secaucus if you're a registered medical marijuana patient. When I got into this program, there were only 7,000 people registered for the New Jersey Medical Marijuana Program. Bruh, we at 90,000 now. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, when you look at, especially when you look at from this election cycle and everything, it's not that we need cannabis it's not that we need them to legalize it. Right now it's polling at like 64% of New Jerseyans are for adult use in this state. What we need that to pass overwhelmingly. And the reason why we need that to be an overwhelmingly pass is because what that gives you a thing called political clout. You see what I'm saying? Because now what we become is a voting block. You understand what I'm saying? When you get, 6 million people vote yes on cannabis, whoa, you see what I'm saying? That's a whole nother, and that's the thing that I am after right now. You see what I'm saying? Because that's where you start to be able to build like from an inside out. That's where the infrastructure, meaningful infrastructure stuff really starts to take place.
Well, that, and just to circle back to what we were saying earlier, if we, by ensuring that there are dispensaries in these areas, it means that the jobs that we were talking about that come along with the support network for those businesses are also in those areas. And by doing so, it helps pump money into those communities. And I guess that's kind of my overarching point on why that you have to make sure that these areas that have been traditionally victimized by law enforcement.
You would be wise to do that. You would be wise to think that. You're absolutely right. But here's the thing. This is New Jersey. Right now, you got 40 towns, 40 whole municipalities that's like, yo, not in our town. They doing stuff like they Xing themselves out. They don't even want it.
That's a big issue, is that you have to ban local control. Local control has to be abolished in the same way that you cannot legally ban a gas station or a liquor store or a phone company or anything else. It's a service. It's a medicine. I never got a chance to vote on the opioid dispensary down the street from me. When do I get a vote on that? Because I'm going to vote against it. I want to ban them all. They're killing people.
Listen,
where's my vote? When do I get a vote on that? It's a legitimate thing.
No. Listen.
When did I get to vote on the fentanyl dispensary? For real, it's legit.
Yup, and the thing is that, but that's see how normalized this is, and then they stand there and they're wondering how we ended up in an opioid abuse and addiction epidemic. You see what I'm saying? Like Steve, yo, dog, the VA mails us, in some cases, the VA mails us those pills now. That's how bad it is. But you want, and then you want to play, and then you want to mess around with this. This is the one thing that's addressing it. States that have thriving, medical marijuana programs are seeing a drop in the number of opioid abuse and addiction incidences, like up to like 25%. You know what I'm saying? They also seeing a drop in the number of scripts being written as well. So come on, man. You can't come on, like people are playing games with other people's lives, and it's like, yo, this has got to stop. Mind you, this whole pandemic thing ain't even ended yet. You see what I'm saying? So it's
also interesting because it's hitting different areas and much different severities. Like here in the South, it's certain areas it's hitting really hard. In other areas, it's almost non-existent, at least on the surface. And it's really strange to kind of, and then also now I've traveled a little bit. In fact, I came back from Africa in the middle of the height of the pandemic and the last week of March, which was a hell of a fucking trip. But I've seen this on 3 continents now, right? So I've seen all levels of reaction to this, and just to see how just completely different it is, even within just a few miles, is so bizarre.
How is it in Africa? How they reacted to it?
Within the first account, everything stopped within 12 hours of the first infection being announced in the country. Everything stopped, and they had military checkpoints on the highway. So a little bit of a different, in my opinion, Zimbabwe did a better job than the United States did at a response and containing it. So, and that's sad. The country with the highest inflation rate on the planet had a better response. Just saying.
I don't subscribe to many conspiracy theories. You know what I'm saying? Hardly any. But in my opinion, I'm just like, the way they're doing things now. You know what I'm saying? This has to be a thinning of the herd. You know what I'm saying? Like wanting to take away healthcare from 25 million Americans with no real plan and stuff like that. And they want to go through with that. This whole trying to ramrod this Supreme Court judge down our throats and all that other stuff.
That's all about abortion. That's the evangelicals trying to get their Roe v. Wade overturned. That's which will never happen.
Yeah, and then like all these things. It's like what, like, and even when you have people who like Lindsey Graham, who's like, yeah, keep the tape or whatever, check the tape. If you're willing to put your integrity on the line like that and sacrifice it, for this, why is this so important to you?
They don't have integrity. That's just the point. That's
there
why
you go.
They don't. They'll sell out to whoever puts money in their wallet, and they don't care. But that's not unique to any political party. That's both sides.
Mm-hmm. No. But the thing is the way this is being done. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
Even
no,
and it's crazy.
So what kind of other what's kind of the cannabis scene like there in New Jersey, and what's the current state of things there? What's the state of medical? What is it, more free or is it very restrictive? What products are available? Give us kind of a rundown on cannabis there in New Jersey.
Well, if you're a entrepreneur in cannabis, then you're only dealing in if you're plant touching in this state, then you're only on medical as of today. So everything for us from an industry's perspective, plant touching, that would be, assume it's all under medical, right? Now, the good news about New Jersey's medical marijuana program is that we actually are blessed with a really, really good deputy commissioner, Jeff Brown. He's, when I say he's really down to earth and makes himself, readily available, it's an understatement. He knows the lingo, he knows who's who. He ain't dumb. You know what I'm saying? He really is about that life. And what I mean by he about that life, like he's the ultimate don't judge a book by its cover. He knows everything in a good way, and so and he is such a proponent of the medical marijuana program. It's under his watch, that they were able to educate the governor to allow for 20 more, qualifying conditions, expansion of the medical marijuana program. He is frustrated that that we're only at 9. The goal is we're at 90,000 right now. The goal is get to 270, which is doable. You see what I'm saying? But the thing is that, you have lawsuits and all that stuff. And, so there are so many things that, he's got going at him. Mind you, the governor of New Jersey at one point had allocated all personnel and resources to fighting COVID. So he was running the Atlantic City Field Hospital. You know what I'm saying? But real cool, solid dude, and that's saying a lot, because I recognize I'm spoiled with him as as leading the medical marijuana program here. He's definitely a proponent of business, of industry, so long as it's done right. And he doesn't like how the whiteness of the industry. He's very in tune to that as well. Um, and in terms of from a actual industry perspective, the idea of the ancillary aspect is something that's in gear here, and it's happening real fast. I've benefited from that aspect as well, from consulting and whatnot, and being able to, talk with folks and also with, educating folks within different parts of the community. I spoke to a senior citizens group a few months ago and had them, try to educate on everything that's happened, because one of the problems we have in this state is that people don't like to vote, particularly Black people. In Trenton, we had 38,000 registered voters. In the last election, we only 8,000 people voted. See what I'm saying? So, getting people to re-engage in their most basic of civic responsibilities is really, really important this time around, because not only are they voting for a president, but they're also voting for weed here in this state. And the other thing too is that you got a lot of groups that are they're getting their business plans together, forming their group, wanting to plant their flags. It's actually moving. I would say if you're looking at, if New Jersey was ever on your radar, people here are working with a reckless abandonment, as if it's just a foregone conclusion that this is going to pass. And then you couple that with what's happening with the Supreme Court case, it's like the perfect, we get this word tomorrow, it'll solidify my 2020. I'll be ending 2020 on a strong note.
I think a lot of people also don't realize there's a lot of state laws about cannabis that are triggered if the feds change. I know there's quite a few states that automatically legalize or automatically legalize a medical program, or have sets of rules in place for when that happens. So I think that, again, the ripple effect from that. Also, remember all the U.S. territories. You have Guam, Marshall
Guam
Islands.
legalized. They legalized for adult use earlier in the year. Yep, or last year. Yep, last year they legalized.
Yeah, Guam. You have I guess the last ones left would be Marshall Islands. Puerto Rico has medical. I don't know if they have rec yet. I don't.
No, I think they just had medical.
Yeah.
And
Helped set up a grow down there before Maria, which didn't
yeah,
go too well. But
yeah, a friend of mine's named Dave Hargat. He just moved to Puerto Rico not too long ago, and like I know that like at some point or another he's going to be setting up shop. You know what I'm saying? Um, and it's Puerto Rico is like prime territory too, man. It's a big land race there.
oh yeah, especially after the hurricane. really opened up a lot more land in terms of what was forested.
Yep,
Uh,
yep, yep. Exactly, exactly. You hit the nail on the head.
no, I yeah, very very familiar with what happened down there. Unfortunately, so.
Much better. Okay.
What is there so I know that there's a change.org petition going. There's a link in the description if people want to get involved. I know they're trying to get to quite a few signatures here before tomorrow. I know they're a little bit short, but if you can get on there and give your support, please do that. It helps their cause.
Oh, and you know what? I'm sorry to interrupt. I got a gift.
Sure.
I got a gift for your viewers. If you like, you can go to www.cwcbexpo.com and register for our virtual expo, November 17th through the 18th. You know, we're going to have speakers like Bruce Linton and, you know, a lot of Calvin Fry, a lot of people talking. And if you use the code, when you register, if you use the code Leo 100, LEO 100, I think the ticket's free. Yeah, should be free. You know, it's a $50 ticket. So, you know, go ahead, knock yourselves out, man. You know, get that exposure, see what's out there, see what companies are going to be, you know, exhibiting, you know.
What's the website and the conference again?
CWCBExpo.com. But
That's
yeah,
great.
it's a 2 day virtual expo, you know, but you get to see what companies are doing and what people are talking about too. It's going to be some serious conversations happening.
All right. Oh, Cannabis World Congress Business Expo. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I went to one of their events last year. I was it to Toronto or was it maybe it was in Toronto, maybe it was in California. I was at so many things last year.
Yeah, I was gonna say we only if it had to be California, it had to be LA.
LA, that's what it must have been.
Yeah, I was at that show.
Very
You'll
cool.
you'll normally find me, you know, like moderating a panel or giving a speech or something like that. You know, like I said, I sit on the advisory board, so you know what I get to do is what it gives me is it gives me a camera, a wide angle camera view of the industry. You see what I'm saying? So you know, I understand a lot of the arguments and stuff, but I'm always thinking on a macro and micro level. I have to. You see what I'm saying? And if that would be my next piece of advice too, is learn to start thinking macro and micro, you know, especially with cannabis and hemp, because it affects, right? Come on, man. Tell them, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, like that stuff is real. You know what I'm saying? And so if you're serious about this game. You know what I mean? Like in season 8, episode 4, you know what we talking about? We talking about the establishing and cultivation of international trade routes. You know what I'm saying? We talking about genetics and you know all that stuff. We're talking about import
And
export.
that'll be the next big thing too is the international trade agreements because we had so many that we did in the 70s because of Nixon in the late 60s and 70s, thanks to Nixon, and then again Reagan, that we have all these wonky international treaties that are going to again make it harder for the United States to compete compared to other countries that don't have these stupid agreements that they've
So
overly.
so again, if the Supreme Court rules in our favor, all that shit comes up too. All that got to be talked about and planned out and figured out and all that stuff. You
And
see
I
what I'm
remember
saying?
when I was working with Jamaica, they had the CARICOM that we had to deal with this issue with import export because they had made agreements with the United States.
Jamaica is exporting to Canada.
Yes, Zimbabwe is sending to a whole bunch of countries around the world.
Yeah, yeah. You know, like I did this community event at Emmanuel Baptist Church in Brooklyn, New York. This was the third. This is like the third largest African American congregation in New York, right? And the event was so big, I was fielding questions from media in Johannesburg, South Africa, because at that time, South Africa had just legalized federally for medicinal purposes, and they allow for home grow.
Yep. Yeah, everybody can have, I believe it's 4 plants or 8 plants in
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
SA. But
Mm-hmm.
so I actually got involved with a project in SA. I'm still involved in a project in SA, a different project, but this one's over, well, on the western side of the country this time. But um, originally we were getting into a big facility over by East London, but then they were like randomly arresting legal grows, like people involved with legal grows with like no rhyme or reason. Like people that were definitely legit because of the companies that they were working with would have like vetted them, and just got kind of squirrely for a bit. So we backed out of that and ended up putting most of our energy into Zimbabwe, where they weren't doing it, and then Zimbabwe started doing some of that shit too. So you
Yeah,
never know.
it's the instability, the government instability that I keep a sharp eye on when monitoring and when thinking about some of these relationships that I've been making with and South Africa, from a stability perspective is a good way, and then also Lagos, Nigeria, you know what I'm saying, they're also,
Yeah, Nigeria's been, they're getting real close to pushing through. I know they've been talking about it for since early last year.
yeah,
I know I've
and
talked with people there for quite a while.
yeah, and see those things, like when you see how they're positioning themselves, you know what I'm saying, it's interesting in terms of how I have to maneuver here, particularly, like, so now,
I think
I'm
those
like,
people that are more competition for like Philip Morris and Marlboro and all that,
mm-hmm,
whereas people like yourselves and the people that you're supporting and the people that like we support are more like your craft growers. They're more like your craft,
exactly,
like the craft brewer versus Budweiser, right? Like they're completely different brands. The customer base they're competing for would never buy the other one because they're just two different customer bases, or are very unlikely to buy the other one, right? The people
all
that are
right,
looking,
yep,
yeah,
I'm 45, right? So when I was a little boy, you know, you could go to the store and buy cigarettes for your parents. They would sell them to you. Okay. So I'm just and I'm dating myself here. So okay.
in my high
Now,
school, we still had a fenced-in area for smoking when my
yeah,
freshman year.
yeah, yeah. So therefore, you know, here's what I would tell you. Um, I remember as a little boy, my grandfather smoked Benson and Hedges 100s, and my aunt Margaret smoked Pall Malls, you know, and my mom smoked Newports. Okay, my whole life. They never stepped out. I never seen them with anything else other than that. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things that I think that, your legalized market industry, one of the things that I think that they kind of lose sight of is that there's little idiosyncrasies about all cannabis consumers. And one of those idiosyncrasies is that we're loyal to a fault. Rarely do we step away from our regular dealer, especially if he's always had the good shit. You know what I'm saying? Why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so, what we have from an industry perspective, from a little guy perspective, is that actually being a little guy might actually be the thing to be in this industry if you think about it. Because being a little guy ensures the fact that you will still be here 5 years from now when you're supposed to fail. Being a little guy establishes your brand individually. You know what I'm saying? If you really know what you're doing, people gonna go far and wide to get you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
So
there's a little bit of a delay on my. I think I keep
okay,
it cuts out. I apologize. I didn't mean to.
it's okay. But it actually may be in your best interest to be a little guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, one of the things that I have available to me is, I have the ability to, in the very near future, actually I'm seriously contemplating applying for a micro license. You see what I'm saying? Just because now I think I want to develop more things, you know what I'm saying? And actually, because if my stuff is the flavor of is the flavor of the month, it'll be the flavor, it'll be your there's no such thing as a flavor of the month. It's either this is your shit, this is what you want. You know what I'm saying? And I believe in 2021 alliances will be ever so important, because now and those alliances will actually have to become formal.
Absolutely. And people like to support their neighborhood too. If they know something
Exactly.
in their area, they'd rather buy it from that, especially if it's hyper local. People, like, it doesn't matter if you're, a wine snob or a dude that likes to smoke blunts. You both like that hyper locality. It's something that it bridges quite a large cultural divide. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So those, so meeting those growers, what I'm saying, those people who's this is their craft, what I'm saying, that's what's going to be important. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, I'm going to be looking for that grower to partner with, where I could marry their botanical talents to my business and advocacy. You see what I'm saying? I think when you have something like that, people get behind a brand because there's a story that they can actually subscribe to. And so, what better of a story than this black ass veteran from Trenton, New Jersey, who decided to, what I'm saying, hoop and holler his way into the Supreme Court with his friends.
Yeah, for sure. I was just cutting back to this, reading the article here. There, one of the other, we talked about most of those bullet points that I had written down from reading this earlier. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about? As a lot of people don't realize how much veterans really are get relief from cannabis. You want to touch more on that and some of the different efforts that you have with the different networks? A lot of people don't even know that there are networks in their area. I think one of the things that we kind of recently realized in the area that I'm at, after talking to quite a few different people at different local cannabis events, is that there isn't a whole lot of cannabis veteran resources here in Southern Oklahoma, but I think we're going to try and organize to try and help change that.
I
Here.
actually I actually got something for you that will probably, something that hits a little close to home for you. You know, um, I've actually partnered with Sean Wilson, who is the founder of Vets in the Hood. And it's an organization out of Philadelphia that is servicing veterans and teaching veterans how to help other veterans access their VA benefits. The Philadelphia area has a veteran population of over 100,000 veterans, but there are only 3 counselors assigned to the to Philadelphia. Yeah, I know. See what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
Yeah, see what I'm saying?
And
And so
was it before we were talking on the show, or was it while we were on air that you were mentioning about how the VA bill can allow them access to even places like Oaksterdam? Was that before, or was that?
no,
Uh,
that was before. No, yeah, no. Since we've been talking, yeah, because I was
okay, I
telling you,
just want to make sure that was while we had that on air, because if
yo,
people
no,
didn't,
no, we got that on there. Yeah,
okay, I just want to make sure because, uh, yeah. Anyways, smoked a little bit much today.
yeah. Hey, listen, I've been burning this Canagar since we started talking. You catching me at a
Got
good time.
our new lemonade we're releasing. This is the leftovers from our batch that we were making that we're launching next week, and actually we have a couple
Congratulations.
this weekend we'll have it at 2 stores, but next week it'll be hitting a lot more stores. But yeah, so super stoked on that. But it takes a while to kick in, but it's good.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah, we got all kinds of fun stuff we're working on out here, and
And that's again, that's one of the things, like that's one of the fun parts about being in this position, is because one of the things that I have had to learn to do is I've had to learn to familiarize myself with all the different platforms in which you can consume, and also learning, like really getting properly educated. Like I don't have to always smoke cannabis. If I start learning about CBD and CBG and CBN, You know, you might find that, you know, and then I'll be honest with you, I even microdose with shrooms too. You know, it really keeps me balanced. Like I'm like really like, okay, you know. So, you know, for me, it's more or less it's all about making sure that I keep up with the current ways in which you can do things because you don't always have to burn. You know, actually, not you shouldn't even be smoking. You know, we're not meant to be
And I think
burning.
this is a great way too for local chefs and people that have a
Hmm.
local bodega. Like it's one of the things I miss about Philly and New York and New Jersey is that you have the corner store and he might only make 3 to 8 things, but they're all really good. Or like most of them are at least, right? So but they all like, so this guy does cheesesteaks really good, this guy does chili dogs really good, this guy does, you know, whatever really good, and you could hit up depending on your day. But each of them could also do like a cannabis version of that too. You know, we're starting to work with a lot of people that have food trucks, and we're doing CBD stuff and CBD sauces and different things that they have, and they're giving us their recipe stuff, and we're just adding CBD to it and giving it back
That's
to them.
what's
And we don't even mess. I have no idea even what the recipe is. I don't need to know it. That's their stuff. But we just put the cannabis portion of it in it and give it back to them. And you know, this is again a way that people can have a lot of the local recipes, the local flavors or local cuisine, and again keep it hyper local and compete with a lot of these international people that are coming down. You know, they're coming down the line. You like when I was growing over in Zimbabwe, we were able to produce for $7 to $8 a pound. You know, good luck trying to compete with that.
what?
If you're trying to actually, go for that race to the bottom dollar, good luck with that. You're not going to compete when you can pay, with the labor costs per day over there. It's just not humanly possible in the
Well,
United
you know,
States. And
it's interesting. I had a meeting with the ICCI a few years ago in New York, right? And you know, they had it broken down to where South America is where the labor is going to come from. You know, uh, North Europe is going to be where the tech is, and North America just gets to be consumers. That's how they got this shit mapped out. Like they really got it mapped out like that. And it's like, damn, really? But then when you look at it, again, thinking macro and micro, once we start import export, shit, it's a wrap.
Well, and
It's,
and it is, will the United States allow it? What type of restrictions and import taxes are they going to put on it? I think, but at the same time, who's going to always be in demand? Humboldt and the Green Triangle. You're going to have like Jamaica, South Africa and Swaziland and that area. Amsterdam, Spain. You have a couple areas that are not Morocco, that are, Pakistan, Afghanistan, that have known for having great cannabis, Thailand, India. But these places, again, they can grow year round. Most of these places year round, and have no grow season stoppage, none of the problems that we have here. And you just can't compete with that. They can produce twice as much per year outdoor.
look, listen, you're gonna see packages.
Going back to the hyper specialization, like you're saying, if you're making your good barbecue sauce and whatever, and now this comes down the line, people still like your barbecue sauce. They ain't gonna stop. This is where you can still survive the coming changes to the market, but by sticking to your local guns, stick to what stick to the stuff that you're already good at making, stick to the flavors, the food recipes, the stuff that you're already good at, and just incorporate it into that, and you'll survive just fine.
I think like this. Go next time you're in the grocery store. And I'm not saying it's going to be in the grocery store, but if you want to know, if you want to get an idea of the future of cannabis and hemp, just go to the grocery store and go stand in the coffee aisle. You see what
Oh
I'm
yeah,
saying?
it's
Just
so
go
many
stand in
different.
the coffee aisle. All that coffee ain't American made. There's some American made. You see Folgers and all that stuff.
None
Yeah,
of it American grown.
yeah,
Where
but
do you
then
grow cannabis in the U.S. or coffee in the U.S. year
yeah,
round?
and all that coffee you see there didn't originate here. And understand something. That's just the coffee they let in. When you actually go outside the borders of the United States, you find out everything you ain't been getting. You see what I'm saying? That's what people. That's how people are not. Like.
Well, and other produce too, bananas and tomatoes and
Yeah,
a whole wide
you will
range.
see in the future your package when you look at your weed, when you get your cannabis, it's going to say made in the USA or made in Philippines, made in what I'm saying, in Thailand, and made in all that shit would have to be on there. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the type of stuff that has to be literally thought about
Oh yeah, and
now.
not only that, like the biocontrols, making sure that you have, your phytosanitary safety certificates and all the rest of the stuff that you have to do transport over borders. And do we want irradiated cannabis, or would we prefer to have an ozone flushed cannabis, or what is an acceptable thing for or an organic or maybe even beyond organic standard to still maintain biosecurity safety?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of questions that get into the technical side of stuff that aren't so simple, especially with smokable products where, maybe we don't want to go to all the stuff that we do to tobacco. Maybe we want to
Now,
try and
now,
the terpenes or use methods that aren't going to cause some of the negative issues. And how can we still maintain biosecurity while doing so? And we're also seeing a huge outbreak of newer viruses and things, beet curled virus, tomato leaf curl virus, a wide range of mosaic viruses
yeah.
that weren't documented in cannabis 5 years ago.
Now, here's the thing, right? Now, imagine me being, Joe Schmo, know nothing, and everything like that. You know what I just heard? Job, 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 job. Everything that you just laid,
Factors, yeah.
everything you just said, that's a job that somebody's going to have to perform. That's actually going to have to be every aspect of what you just said. In order to answer that, that's got to be somebody's career. That's a career. Those are career jobs just to get to those damn answers and then to maintain them. You know what I'm saying? And we ain't even talked about all the other jobs that just spiderwebbed off of just that. Just like people like I hear you, but I hear you. And I'm like, we gotta get that together too, right?
Not only that, but you also have like the guys that are delivering soil and the guys that are delivering the pots and the guys that maintain the roads for the trucks to get there, and just all the different thousand things that go into this stuff. And again, like we talked about the inspectors, you have to have safety inspectors. That's also that the
They
inspection
gotta go
that
get trained. They gotta be
exactly.
trained.
And that's why I always recommend, I've talked to a couple of different governments now, and I always say, look, start with rec, even if it's a phased in 6 month or 1 year thing. Start off with rec because it gets your inspectors and your infrastructure that the government has to have to collect taxes to do things safely, get the testing facilities up to scale and up to capacity. I mean, we saw the absolute disaster that Oregon did with their shit show that they had with the testing and how they just completely dropped the ball. Or another great shining example would be Nevada with them allowing the liquor control board
Liquor, yeah, and they messed it all
two
up.
additional vehicles. I think it was two additional vehicles to handle the entire cannabis industry. They intentionally sabotaged that. They had to literally declare a state of emergency to make sure that cannabis could make it to the stores, which has got to be one of the funniest things that's ever happened in U.S. politics for sure.
Flintstones, and you're asking them to make rules to a Jetsons game. And
Oh yeah, it's insanity, and these guys have no concept of what a terpene or a cannabinoid is, but they'll write laws about it, and yeah, just that's the problem. Is again, you don't have enough scientists involved, and the people writing the laws, or the people that are writing the laws simply just won't listen.
you want to know the thing that trips me out the most? You know, listen, bro. Hold on. Okay, so check this out, man. Um, my 14-year-old thinks I'm corny, and my 4-year-old talks to me like I'm small. Okay, my wife has a PhD in mathematics. Okay, so I'm married. As a married man with 2 kids, the times that I get to be 100% right about anything is very few and far between. It almost never happens. For me, do something for me. Yes, do something for me. That's beautiful. And so the thing is that when it comes to this cannabis thing, I am 100% right. And me and you have been 100% right. You know what I'm saying? You know, trust me. Like as a married man, sometimes I have to choose: do I want to be right or do I want peace? And 95% of the time, I'm choosing peace. You know what I'm saying? But this time, I'm 100% right. So nah. You know what I'm saying? And so I work and conduct myself as someone who is 100% right.
I think a lot of people too, once they've seen it heal people, once they've seen it turn somebody
Mm-hmm.
around that was given a
Mm-hmm.
death sentence, once they've seen
Mm-hmm.
it give somebody their child back who was a
Mm-hmm.
vegetable,
Mm-hmm.
they've
Mm-hmm.
seen it stop someone's seizures and watch someone stop watching, like in agony, watching their kid convulse, and then that doesn't happen anymore. Like that changes everything. It doesn't matter what their hangups were before that.
Well, a friend of mine's uh, came over to my house one night, and he came over. He was a little emotional. He had to tell me this. I said, "What happened?" And he said, "Look, man." He was like, he was like, "Remember the other night when we was smoking?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I had some of that weed and I took it over to, went over to my mom's house." And he said, my cousin was there. And I said, "Oh, okay." He said, she had a brain procedure done. You know what I'm saying? So she hasn't been right for a while. You know what I'm saying? And he said, you know, they was like, "Yo, you should go ahead." And he was like, "Really?" So he rolled some up and smoked with her. And he said, "Bruh," he said, I can't even tell you how long we was smoking, but we was smoking for a while before I realized I, I had my cousin back." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I didn't understand. And he said, the conversation was so good he didn't realize that he was just in regular conversation. She was calling him by the whatever the family nick, I think is Booby or whatever in their house or whatever nickname they call him. That was the name she was using, and she was responding. You know what I'm saying? But he was like, "Man, I was high," but he was like, he said, "I realized he said she must have said his name like maybe 5 or 6 times before he realized for a period of time she was engaged. She was there. She was clarity of thought or whatever." And that was the first time he had ever witnessed the medical benefit firsthand. And it was powerful for him because it it revealed itself on a loved one. You see what I'm saying? So he was really, really, like, he was like, "Wow, I never, that never happened." He was just really happy. And he's been, like, "Keep going, bro, keep going," like that.
Yeah, no, I've personally seen it turn a kid who was 4 years old. He was having so many seizures a day. He was strapped to a chair. The anti-seizure medication, well, in a stroller, basically. And
Look at Alexis. Look at Alexis Bortell on the case.
yep.
Mm,
And so the first time he came in, this guy came into the store when I was working at aquaponic stores. Couldn't move, couldn't communicate. He was unaware of the world around him, I guess, for to put it politely. The next time I saw that kid, 3 months later, his dad helped him open the door. He ran in and started smashing some of the down
wow.
glasses that we use for measuring, and smashing the glass ones on the floor and giggling uncontrollably. And I just burst into tears because that kid couldn't understand that there was a world outside of his mind before that. And to see him come in and just get joy over breaking stuff like a normal 4 year old was the best thing I've ever
Yep,
seen in
yep,
my whole life.
yep,
And I've seen
yep.
it give somebody else that was given 2 weeks to live. is on almost year 8 now.
So
And
2 weeks to year 8. Like, listen, man, one of the things, you got to realize, bro, is that what you have found is your ministry, man. This is your ministry, whether you realize it or not. You know what I'm saying? And every time you go out and do the things that you do and everything like that, all testimonies ain't audible, bro. You know what I'm saying? A lot of testimonies is just that work, like you could really judge it, you could judge a man by his work. You know what I'm saying? And you can judge a tree by the fruit it bears. You see what I'm saying? And look at what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? It's your work. Sometimes ministries just have to be shown. And that's what this is for you, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy for you. At least you got it. You know what I'm saying? Imagine the people that's walking around right now. They don't have that freedom of thought. You know what I'm saying? And to be happy about what it is that you have your purpose in life now. You know what you're doing. You've been to what you was doing. So you right. Keep
yeah,
going, man.
I was talking to my girlfriend yesterday or the day before about how like we couldn't imagine like living without cannabis, especially with like having hurt my back and her having hurt her back and stuff, and just like
Wow.
imagining the level of pain before and after, and just how much. And then now we actually we've been working on American edibles and some other products here in Oklahoma, and getting them out. We actually had somebody on Monday or Tuesday tell us that the guy had been through a motorcycle accident. He was pain free for the first time in 14 years, and that was super
Yeah.
awesome. Also, just being able
Yeah.
to have people like that is super cool.
Yeah. Listen, man, like what got me into this, is like a lot of people, either something happened to them or somebody they love. And that's a different kind of motivation. You know what I'm saying? That's that kind of motivation that can't be bought off. You know what I'm saying? That, that's the type of shit that make, you hear women lifting cars off their kids and shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is that, you know, those be the most righteous ones. You know what I'm saying? Because, there's the people who are doing it just strictly for the money, and then there's the people who are doing it for the culture. You understand what I'm saying? And this culture is all inclusive. I tell people all the time, the tribe is small, but we everywhere. We everywhere. You know what I'm saying? We in Zimbabwe, you know what I'm saying? We going to South Africa. The tribe is everywhere. And the thing about it is that this industry is very incestuous. You know what I'm saying? The degrees of separation is like less than 2. You know what I'm saying? And so, at some point or another, you're gonna end up circling back around to one another at some point in some capacity. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't fail. You know what I'm saying? It has, and I'm learning that, And so again, that's why I said 2021, a lot of those alliances are gonna have to become formal. We're gonna have to be like, yo, we gotta put paper to pen on this, because there's some things that are happening and there's some movements that's taking place. And you got a lot of people that's really not moving like we need them to. There's a lot of people that's not going to be ready for this. And that's what's really maddening.
So you've been talking a lot of awesome knowledge tonight. How can people support the different groups that you're involved in? Involved in quite a bit
Oh,
of different things. How can people support you and help support the movement? What are some of the different ways that they can do that if they want to get involved?
well, first and foremost, re-engage in the political process. Start fulfilling your basic civic responsibilities. So go out and vote. You know, and then the second thing, check out minorities for mmunited.org. These are groups where you have networks of people who are actually moving in the industry. And then check out CWCB Education. You know, find out what things we have going on. We had a webinar yesterday. We have a few other initiatives that are taking place in the coming weeks, and we also are. What else are we doing? And yeah, that's it. Other than stay tuned, see what happens with the Supreme Court decision. You'll probably be telling you'll probably have to get back on and tell your viewers what happened come tomorrow. Other than that, I thank you for allowing me this platform to be able to talk about the various things. I had a good time with you, you know, and I look forward to working with you some more, brother.
Heck yeah, I hope to be able to support you in some of your stuff. I know we were talking about some synergies that we'll touch on in the future for sure. And yeah, it's also just nice to talk to somebody from back home, nice
Yeah,
to hear
man.
familiar accents.
Yeah. EAGLES, Eagles. Got to get that
We were
in, man.
comparing Eagles shirts. He's got an Eagles shirt on, and I came went and got my championship one.
That beautiful article of clothing you have. You know what I'm saying?
All right, here we go. Just to piss off all the local Dallas guys. I do live in Dallas territory, so I do wear my Eagles gear proudly to the bars here. Did I cut out or
But I was gone for 22 years, and it is so nice to be living back in our home market.
Oh yeah, no, I'm down deep in Cowboys territory, so they love me when I go out.
Oh yeah, well, you mean the Dallas Cowboys? Because there's no D in Dallas right now.
Right? That's all right. Apparently, there isn't any in Philly either.
Hey, but we're in first place.
I don't know how.
I've been having a really good week. Yeah, I'm like, look, we so shitty. We're still in first place. How's that?
Yeah, it just shows you how good our conference is, I guess.
At least we're hurt. Look, man, good talking to you, brother. Thanks for having me on, man.
Appreciate it. And again, what any other links or mentions you wanted to drop?
Everything: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Everything is Leo Bridgewater. Look me up. Tag me, friend me up, man. You can keep the best. Keep up with me the best. Particularly on Facebook and Instagram. That's where you'll find me the most. And where I'm most active and and what it is that I'm doing. Again, you'll find me next November 17th to the 18th at the virtual expo. So come on out, see what's going on. This is virtual, and then be prepared because we're going to be going back to our live shows sometime in 2021. You'll get all the updates. Go to the website, go to CWCB Expo Insider as well, insider.com. And CWCB Expo. Those are where you get all your good content.
Awesome. I really appreciate it.
No doubt, brother. You have a good rest of the evening.
You too. And yeah, definitely look forward to talking to you in the future.
Yeah, man. Hit me up. You got my email address and everything. Okay. Yeah. All right, brother. Take care.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right now.
Peace. That was an awesome interview. It was great to touch on that. That's a really historic case that we have coming in tomorrow, and hopefully the Supreme Court decides to take it, and fingers crossed, hopefully they decide to throw out the DEA's bullshit. That would change quite a bit for the United States. Yeah, we'll see how things go tomorrow. So definitely stay tuned tomorrow and find out if they decide to take that case, because it'll be pretty important. If you're interested, one other thing of note, Marty wasn't able to make it tonight, but Marty and I are almost done the class. We've done a lot more work on the aquaponic cannabis class. We're hoping to have it ready by November 1st. If not, worst case scenario, we'll have it done by Black Friday. We're just kind of in editing. We have a lot of content that we're putting together for the class. So, but you can check that out at APMJ class. You can pre-order now if you're interested in that. And be sure again to check out the merch store. I will have that in the description as well if you're interested in t-shirts or hoodies. But yeah, if you're checking out, Marty and I have been working on this super cool long format class. It's more than 5 days worth of content. I think we're way past that now, and we're going to keep adding stuff to it quarterly. Every few months we'll be adding more slides and more sections to the class, covering more things in depth, elaborating on a lot more content that we already have there, and kind of expanding upon it, and kind of doing it more like a subscription service. So it's going to be pretty cool and kind of a different way to learn. I think also people are going to enjoy the fact that it will be kind of, current and have a lot of interesting stuff with it. So definitely check that out. And then if you aren't aware, we did over the weekend the virtual aquaponic cannabis class. You can find that right here on the Potent Ponics YouTube channel. Oh, I forgot to mention the class. Sorry, I'm just tired and a little bit high, a lot of bit high. The class link is apmjclass.com. But you can check out the virtual aquaponic cannabis conference. We had it over the weekend. We had quite a long list of guests and sponsors. A big thank you to all of our guests and sponsors. They were super awesome. We have lots of things. If you want something, I will be mailing those out tomorrow. It took me a while to get the last couple of people's addresses and stuff. So yeah, if you haven't heard back from me, that's why. I think there's one or two people that emailed me today. I just haven't gotten those in the mail yet today, but those will go out. I have it all packaged up for you. Yeah. Other than that, check it out. We had 18 hours of content from a wide range of topics, from 2 hours on Korean natural farming. Marty and I both spoke quite extensively on different topics on dual root zones and some other topics. Dr. Wilson Leonard talked about his work on decoupled systems down in Australia, working with a client, and a couple of other people talked on stuff. Liam Keys from Chief Cultivator, who is one of the coolest guys out there in aquaponic cannabis, and posts some incredible pictures. I gave us a tour of his facility, which is super freaking cool. Josh Rutherford gave us a tour of his facility, which was also very cool. So lots of cool content. And yeah, if you had a chance to check it out, definitely check it out. You'll learn a lot. Again, there's 18 hours of content there. So we also had a breeding panel with Dragonfly Earth Medicine and Wade Laughter. We had Murray Hollom on. We had just a really cool list of guests. Chris Trump and Wendy Kornberg on KNF. We had Matthew Gates speaking about insects. So it was really, really great group of people. And then also, if you need nutrients and you're looking for nutrients, check out True Aquaponics. We also have a subscription service that I help with them over on. If you're looking for nutrient subscriptions and you need help balancing your aquaponic system, we can do all that for you with water testing, as well as sending you easy to use aquaponic nutrients. You just rip the package open, pour it in the sump, and your stuff gets solved. You don't have to think about anything. So definitely check that out over there. And yeah, if you like this content, please hit like and subscribe. Tell your friends about the show. On a sad note, I guess made me think of it. Rob from the Homegrown Helpers podcast and assistant producer of the Growcast passed away last week, which is very sad news and sudden. So please support them any way you can. I know that there's not any fundraising going on, but definitely just some different digital memoriams going up around that. So give them some love over there. They could really use that extra love right now. He put out a lot of great content and really tried to help people grow and help people get started. And it's really, really sad to see him go. So yeah, definitely go show them some love. Alrighty, we'll catch you guys next week. I think the show should go back to 2 shows a week once Marty and I are done with all this editing and stuff. We've just been kind of using that to have a day that we can both sit down together that we already have dedicated normally to get stuff done. So we will be a little bit light, but I got some cool guests lined up, and we have some more interesting people that'll be on the show here before too long. And then we're going to try and get some more maybe some like tour content and stuff like that, maybe some recorded stuff as well. And then I have another show, a podcast that's going to be all pre-recorded, and you'll understand why when we do it. But I think you guys are going to like it. And we had recorded some content kind of for this before that we never released. And we'll see how this goes together, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. And I think you guys are going to really enjoy the format. It's a little bit crazy and a little bit cool. And you're going to hear some cool stories that I don't think you've heard before from people that you guys know. So it's going to be fun. Other than that, if you're in the, I believe, was it October 24th? Is the next one it? Yes, is this Halloween?
24th, 26th.
Yeah, I think it's October 24th at Bubba's Brew House is the next event. I think that we're doing a thing.
Smoke on the River, that's the 31st. That's the 31st.
Oh, anyways, there's one on the 24th and one on the 31st. More information coming soon. But if you want to come hang out, I'll be down there in the southern Oklahoma area again, doing some more events down there. It seems to be the only place really doing a lot of that kind of stuff right now, and we're not super far for us to go. So definitely come check us out and come say hi if you're down in southern Oklahoma. Yeah, more info soon. I believe both events are at Bubba's Brew House, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, I think that's everything for now. I appreciate everybody watching. I appreciate Leo taking the time to come on and all the awesome work he's doing there with veterans and to help get all the different things going with his work there in New Jersey. He sounds like he's got a lot of different moving pieces of the puzzle there that he's involved with, which is super awesome. It's also cool to have, someone like that can have so many different points of perspective to help these different people, especially on the legislative side, because he's working directly with the community, but also with some of these veterans organizations and some of these other groups, and kind of seeing things from many different ways that can help, especially better talk to people that maybe are a bit more skeptical, because he can bring up topics that they can more relate to because he can see it from a lot more different ways. So it's really awesome to have those type of advocates out there in the community. Alrighty, thanks again for watching. You can find out more information from me on potentponics.com, potentponics YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Instagram, all the things. And we'll be back again next